I want to bring up a sell high. His name is Travis Etienne. I love him, but I want to make a case to sell him. He's the number 2 running back in fantasy. He's averaging 3.9 yards per carry. Very rare for a running back to finish in the top 5, averaging less than 4 yards per carry. It did happen with 2 running backs back in 2021, Najee Harris and James Conner. Najee Harris had 74 catches that year. Conner scored 18 touchdowns. So Etienne is following the Conner route, basically. He has 8 touchdowns in 8 games. I think the yards per carry could easily go up, but he has struggled there a little bit. And they just signed a guard. They just traded for a guard who's very, very highly graded by PFF, so that's good. But there's another case here. One, his touchdowns have not been a lot of goal line stuff. It's been a lot of long touchdowns. I think 4 or 5 have been, 4 of his 7 touchdowns have been from like 17 yards out or longer. And then his schedule, it's not great. San Francisco, Tennessee, Houston, Cincinnati, those aren't bad. Cleveland, Baltimore. He does get Carolina in week 17. So he's the number 2 running back. I feel like you could get just about anything you wanted for Travis Etienne. Maybe you shouldn't. Maybe he's just going to be that good. But I feel like his touchdowns have been a little fluky. I guess you could say if he weren't scoring these long touchdowns, then maybe they'd get in the red zone more and he would score shorter touchdowns. I don't think that's going to be Tank Bigsby anymore. But I'm wondering if you think that this is the peak of Travis Etienne, and why I'm certainly not saying that he's not going to be an absolute must start, that maybe this is when we should cash in. Thoughts?
I would guess you're going to hear the narrative coming off the bye that they have to get their passing game going a little bit more. You know, and maybe the return of Zay Jones, just because he adds a different element to what they've been missing, helps that if he's healthy. So that's not to say that he can't benefit from that, because he's still going to catch passes out of the backfield, but maybe it opens things up a little bit also for the run game. But that's really the one thing that's lacking in this team right now. I mean, their defense has been fantastic. I mean, you look what they've done the last 3 games and how they've held opponents, from a point perspective. Etienne's done what is asked of him. I think they're certainly happy with what his production has been by comparison to last year. And while Lawrence is playing well, Heath's noted this time and time again, the red zone struggles in the passing game and just really how they're running routes. You watch them, it's a lot of it's just horizontal as opposed to anything down the field. So how much does that, improve with some extra practice time? But that might hinder him a little bit, but I can't really see a situation where he's going to fall off. So I guess if your point is like, do you want to trade Etienne for a struggling guy that was drafted ahead of him, like an Eckler or a Barkley, maybe, if you're looking to do a 1-for-1 type situation, it feels like that's just a lateral move at this point as opposed to an upgrade. So I would probably just keep Etienne personally.
And I think. Go ahead. No, I was going to say, like, the touchdown concerns I don't totally get, because like he's got more touches than any other running back in football. Yeah. Christian McCaffrey has 10 fewer touches than Travis Etienne and 5 more touchdowns. Mostert's got 60 fewer touches than Etienne and 4 more touchdowns. He hasn't been lucky, and he doesn't have a high number of touchdowns relative to the number of touches. He's just getting the ball more than anybody else.
He's 3rd in touches per game among running backs, 22.3 per game. He's 4th in PPR points per game. And Adam, you called out the schedule. It is a tough schedule. Look at who he's played in the last 4 weeks. He's taken on the Bills, the Colts, the Saints, the Steelers. I don't think that's a cakewalk.
Yeah, but there's really only one tough defense in there from what we've seen. I mean, Pittsburgh without Hayward, not the same. The Saints are really the tough one to me. The Colts we know have fallen apart.
I don't know. I think he's pretty darn good.
Yeah. No, that's not a knock against him. I'm just saying that schedule's not.
So look, I think we would all agree. Rest of season, where does he rank amongst the top 5 running backs? Who would you take ahead of him in a 1-for-1 deal? McCaffrey is up there. Would you take Kamara ahead of him?
Yes.
I think it's close in PPR. Non-PPR, I'd rather have Etienne. What about you mentioned Eckler? Is everybody going to be on board with Eckler now they had that big game against the Bears?
I don't think so. He is running the ball so poorly.
I agree. But at least they use him in the passing game, which I think helps him. What about Brees? Who would you rather have, Brees or Etienne?
I mean, these are all lateral moves except for McCaffrey.
See, and that's kind of the thing. Like, I'd rather just stick with Etienne at this point.
I think the thing, though, like, to your quarterback question, Adam. If you have good running back depth, which a lot of people don't, but if you do, and you wanted to turn Etienne into a quarterback and probably something, because we know one quarterback leagues is going to take a little bit more. But if you could turn Etienne into Mahomes and let's say Jerome Ford, something like that.
Oh God,
where you're
no.
getting-
I'd go higher than that if I could.
But you know what I'm getting at. Like if you're
Yeah,
so
sure.
desperate for quarterback, you're trying to get two players for a player like that.
Holmes and Jacobs.
Sure.
If you can pull it off, yeah.
Heath, what do you want to say there?
Nothing.
All right. Well, thank you for indulging me on Travis Etienne, which, by the way, just remember, I don't hate Travis Etienne. I love Travis Etienne. I'm going to lose every game this week because I have a lot of Travis Etienne and he's on a bye.